What is up, everybody? I am Sergeant Sentinel, aka SSG, and this is the PSN Party Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. With me, of course, is the always exceptional BMG, BaldManGamer, and our two guests, VJ and Donnie from Pure Dead Gaming. BaldManGamer, do you want to tell everyone what you've been watching, or what you've been playing this week?
Yeah. My usual, a bit of Marvel snap. Got to get my dailies in there. Work towards them new cards. Get my season pass, or battle pass done. Which I'm about halfway through at the moment, but yeah, still really enjoying that. No one else cares about Marvel Snap except for me and Finbar. But best mobile game on the planet today, and it was Game of the Year, the Game Awards, and XP Network for 2022. Other than that, I've not really been playing Destiny, which is like the best live service FPS game on the planet, but that's because it's just plagued with like issues, disconnection problems, so that I've kind of put on the back burner. Last week, me and ImaGhostbusterAsh, we live streamed some DC Universe Online, which I haven't played in years, and it's actually still quite well populated, and I was quite enjoying that. And other than that, because the new season of The Witcher has started on Netflix, so I thought, you know what, it's about time I jump back into The Witcher 3 and play it now. It's had the optimization patch, so I'm still in the starting area, if you will. I'm just about to kill the Griffin in The Witcher 3, but that's about it for me this week so far.
You guys threw me off because we were just, before the podcast went live, we were talking about that television show. And rather than ask about the game, I said, what were you watching? I was like, oh, yeah. So for people...
But I'm watching that as well.
Yeah, so for people listening to the podcast, we were talking about a British television show before we started with the podcast. That's what my train of thought was. And so that's why I asked what he was what he was watching, not what he was playing. Apologies.
But also... as well as watching The Witcher, I've started listening to the audio books of Song, Fire and Ice by George R.R. Martin, which is Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So I'm on book one, about halfway through book one, with on the audiobook version of that. So I've started watching the TV show again. And as well as my Sunday tradition, I always watch, 2 or 3 episodes a week of Only Fools and Horses, which I know VJ would very much appreciate.
Very nice, very nice. VJ, what have you been playing this week as far as video games go?
Myself?
Yeah.
Let's give you... I'll provide you a few clues, and let's see if you can guess. Knowing beforehand doesn't count. So let's think. I'm soaring the skies, I'm searching the lands, and I'm scouring the depths. Any ideas?
Does the guy have pointy ears?
Say that. Sorry, can you say that again?
Does the main character have pointy ears?
Maybe.
Probably Zelda then. Yep.
Yeah. Does everyone think his name's actually Zelda as well?
No.
Full marks to Sentinel. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I'm just over a couple of 100 hours in, and
Wow.
And it's phenomenal game. And I haven't, just prior to that, I was playing Mech Warrior.
Yeah.
And someone introduced me to that, and it really. I mean, just from the thumbnail, right? Because normally I browse games, look at the thumbnail, that seems interesting, and I thought I'll try it. It was really, really difficult and awkward for me because it seems like it was set up to be, designed for a PC, as a PC game, using mouse and click and all that sort of stuff. Which I'm not a PC gamer by any stretch of the imagination. So I tried it. I had a bit of guidance from Removable Sanity, and he walked me through a couple of missions and so on and so forth. Even though I had to sort of begin through the first few hours of the game because the multiplayer aspect only unlocks. So I think the mission's called No Man's Land, and then I've ended up putting 300 hours into that on the Xbox. And since that, then I straddled between the two, which I don't do when I play games. I only play games concurrently. I don't play games simultaneously. It's just
right.
I've had over about 30 years now. So then, but I straddled this time between Zelda and Mech Warrior. And then once I'd finished Mech Warrior, the campaign and everything else in the game, well, pretty much, I was only one achievement away from. Not that I chase achievements. It kind of gives you a measure, right, in terms of how far I got into the game. And I think I'm like 1 or 2 achievements away from pretty much doing everything, which is not really an issue for me. And then everything's been pretty much about Zelda. I took a break to play a little bit of. Is it the Planet of Lana? Is that it? Right?
Yeah, that's on Game Pass, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've dabbled with that, but everything. I think I was with you, Sentinel, on a show with Stubbs last week, and I said, look, everything that I've did up until the last 12 months, lots of different games. It's just that Zelda just seems to encapsulate the essence. And the visual design and animations and the context, the storylines, the array of things you can experience within the game, from puzzles, from adventure, from solving riddles to, making discoveries to strategizing in terms of how you want to approach enemy bases, construct vehicles, whether they be to soar the skies or scale the depths, as I've mentioned. Or just to sort of make it a lot easier to roam the lands, because the world is huge. It's just totally caught my imagination, and I can't seem to put it down. So if I have a sleepless night, I'll pop down for an hour and play it. Just to cook up some recipes and stuff like that. So I'm probably going on and on here and spoiling it for people, but yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful game. And if you're not. And as I said, I know it's built on old hardware, but technically and visually and music and sound effects wise and visual effects wise, it's I think it stands out as a perfect example to anyone who wants to get into video game industry in terms of development, and even established developers that exist today. I think it stands out head and shoulders above everything else, and I'd pay attention to it, and because it will teach you a lot, and it will bring people back to what gaming is, what makes gaming really, 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 really fun, and what the core components and the structure of a video game should be. And that's why I say that even developers that exist today that perhaps feel that they're at the top of their game, this Zelda can teach you a few things for sure.
Right. It sounds like a must-own for anybody who has a Nintendo Switch. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I think so. I had my year planned out, Sentinel, right? It was going to be, Silk Song will probably be around the corner, Spider-Man's coming, Starfield's there, Final Fantasy 16. Yeah. And all of a sudden, it seems like the Nintendo Switch's lifespan's been bookended. It started off with Zelda, which I bought, and Mario Odyssey, which I played. And then now 6 years later, I'm picking up Zelda again and the bookend. And then I've suddenly seen Pikmin 4. And there's like a 3 or 4 hour demo available, which I haven't touched, which I probably won't, as I'm probably just going to order Pikmin 4. And then I missed Mario RPG the first time around from Square Enix. So, and that's out this year. I just saw that, last week. And so all of a sudden, it's like, I don't know how to explain it to you. It's like for me, the Switch lifespan, or the story of the Switch, has been bookended with these games. Who knows what they're going to announce for next year, whether it's the Switch 2 or not. I really don't know. They're probably waiting for component prices to drop, knowing Nintendo, before they release another system,
right?
Or the price of plastic, knowing them. And but yeah, look, if you like Zelda, if you're willing to open yourself, like I did with Mech Warrior, I would say with Mech Warrior 5, then yeah, it's not that it'll be a must own. You'll just be pleasantly surprised that you'd almost feel like if I had to let this game slip by me, I would regret it.
Yeah.
And it's so much charm in it. You can stand in the valley, you can stand in the field, you can stand in Death Valley, and just the morning mist and bits of grass flying around. And technically, what it achieves on hardware, which is almost like what technology is 10 years old, it's phenomenal. And when they try, when was it? When I think BMG mentioned The Witcher, and I remember I haven't played it on the Switch because I played it on Xbox. When they said that there must be some serious dark arts incorporated by CDPR, right, in creating or getting this game to Witcher 3 running on the Switch hardware. And if they did that, then I would say Nintendo as a platform holder has perfected those dark arts.
Yeah. I think Nintendo, it seems like Nintendo kind of excels at what they're known for, especially with titles like this.
Big question is, though, VJ, with Zelda, which everybody will want to know, did you build a giant penis?
In honor of you, no.
Wow. Jesus.
No. I mean, look, I want to be honest with you, Sentinel. Is I blocked all the videos and anything that could potentially spoil the game. And 200 hours in, I thought I understood the game and what to do. And then I went on to, I bit the bullet, and I went onto YouTube and I wanted to see what people had built.
Yeah.
And I realized that my own comment internally reflected like 90% of the comments, below the video itself, which is, watching this video, I realized I really lack imagination, because some of the stuff that people are doing out there is absolutely phenomenal. It's almost like a CAD system, right? But it's like a 3-year-old can, play around with the physics and mechanics of all the Zonite systems,
right?
Or you can be a seasoned CAD professional, right, and still, utilize that program to the nth degree. It's that accurate in terms of the physics and in terms of how the physics play out based on what you're building, right? And
right.
It may not make sense to you in terms of why is it doing like that, but then it unlocks your brain, and the game actually unlocks your brain into understanding what it is that you've built and why it's not working. Initially, I really struggled with that because my mind doesn't work like that, and so it's helped me understand a bit more about myself and unlocked a few things in my mind, not to the nth degree or anything, but just unlock things enough to make me realize and perceive things in a slightly different way in life generally. And that's what I'm saying is that Zelda as a video game, yeah, it's fine. In terms of what it can teach you and unlock within you is quite phenomenal. Like, I can't speak highly enough of it. Some of us may never ever come across it. You may never even need to, but if you ever get the chance, whether it's on PC, and if you do end up playing it on PC, make sure you buy the game, just to support Nintendo, right, and the developers behind it. I'm not sort of advertising that or anything like that, but obviously there's a lot of people out there that were playing the game 2 weeks before it was actually out. So, but yeah, the game hasn't been spoiled for me in any shape, way, or form. I know Luke Steele's in the chat, so he's probably going to, DM me or something and tell me, well, you spoiled the game for me, because he doesn't want it spoiled for him either. So but
right.
It's a phenomenal game, and next up will probably be Pikmin 4 for me.
Nice. Donnie, what have you been playing? Have you checked out Zelda at all?
I think I put Donnie to sleep.
Oh, sorry, I just woke up there. Sorry, thanks, VJ. Yeah, no, listen, I got 50 hours into Zelda, and then Diablo 4 came out, and everything just switched, and I then became obsessed with Diablo 4. And then last week, a little game, I don't know, you maybe heard of it, Final Fantasy 16. You guys have heard of that at all? But that came out, and holy shit, that's me. I'm about 50 hours into that in the last week, which is that's decent numbers, to be honest with you. So it's pretty much gripped me. I think someone in the chat, I think it was Dazarus, was saying as well that he was loving it. And yeah, this it's a special game. It really is. Every single scene just drips with AAA. I dread to think what the kind of budget was for this over the last 5 years, because they've absolutely nailed it. I wasn't sure of the combat going in, because I'm a purist that likes turn-based, so I was a little bit, and I still am. I would still prefer the option of having some sort of turn-based. But this game is just so impressive. The story is so gripping. The characters, the voice, and the voices in this are just it screams of like theater. It is that good. Where it's going to land in terms of Game of the Year conversations, obviously, I think it will fall short for the aforementioned Zelda and potentially obviously Starfield and that, but I think it will be up there. I think it will definitely be in the top 5 for most people.
Yeah, I hear a lot of conversation, and this year it's been about 3 games so far that I think a lot of people have been talking about. Of course, it's Zelda, then it was Diablo, now of course it's Final Fantasy. And it seems like it's been a pretty strong year so far. I think a lot of people have been playing these titles, and that's really going to push them into the Game of the Year discussion, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, this. I don't think this is hyperbole to say that looking at what's came out, we're 6 months into the year, thinking about what's due out between now and Christmas. Obviously, VJ's mentioned 2 Mario games, which look absolutely spectacular. You've got Spider-Man, you've got Starfield, you've got Pikmin 4, and a few other things. I think we'll finish this year, and I think if you sit down and look at the last 25 years of gaming, you'll say it's a top 3 year easily, maybe even better.
Yeah,
I think it can be top 2.
Has it been your favorite game so far this year, Donnie?
It's tough. I put in Twitter yesterday, my top 3 are Tears, Diablo, and Final Fantasy 16. At the moment, there's recency bias that I've got Final Fantasy as number 1, but 2 weeks ago I told you Diablo was, and before that I told you Tears was, and if you ask me tomorrow, I'll give you a different 3 as well. So it's very difficult to say. It's great as Tears is, and sorry, you gonna say?
No, Donnie, I think I know how you feel, because I think it just depends on the order you play it in, because when I finished Mech Warrior, I was thinking to myself, how have I not known about this game? It's been out for 4 or 5 years. But once, and I don't mean this in a derogatory, once I'd had my fill of it, Zelda was like something completely different and completely new and completely fresh, like my Buzz Lightyear syndrome, and it was like it just took over my world, as did Mech Warrior. So I completely understand what you're saying and how you feel about the approach to playing games consecutively.
Yeah, I mean, often, like Elden Ring last year was the contrary to recency bias usually wins. Obviously it was released in February, wasn't it? But Tears arguably, or did it come out too early? I don't think that will matter. I think when it comes to the Game of the Year stuff, I think it's not going to weigh on people's mind that it was 6-7 months ago, because I think it's such a good game, and I wish I had more time in my day to keep playing a bit more Tears in between, but there's just not enough time. There's really not. It's insane at the moment. What we have just now is insane. And of course, for me, playing Diablo, the new season is due out in a couple of weeks, so I'm obviously keen to get Final Fantasy 16. I might even try the Platinum as well, so I'm kind of got that in my mind. So first world problems, guys?
Yeah. And I think it's like as you get older and you have a job and you have all these life responsibilities, these big games are great and you're definitely getting value for your money, but then you have to pick and choose which one you dedicate time to,
Yeah, it's insane. And I think back to that lockdown. I don't know you guys, but that first lockdown we had, my end of year numbers was 1,500 hours.
Jesus.
Thanks to lockdown, which is insane. And of course, the year after, out of lockdown, it dropped down to 1,000. It literally dropped 500 hours, a third of the time. So time is definitely precious.
Donnie, I just wanted to ask you. So you mentioned Diablo, which I was interested in. You mentioned Tears, and you mentioned Final Fantasy 16. Which game are you are you playing FF16 right now?
Yes, and I'm solo playing that at the moment.
And out of the 3, are they all on hand on heart? Are they all on? Would you be disturbed, or would you be annoyed, or would you be upset, or are you sort of ambivalent in terms of which one would win? Sort of Game of the Year, or you really wouldn't mind?
If the year stopped just now, I don't think I would mind. I think all 3 of them definitely have their merits and have their good points and bad points why they wouldn't. Obviously, it's with the likes of Starfield and Spider-Man. I don't think Spider-Man will enter the conversation, but obviously Starfield definitely will. It's going to look very, very different the next 6 months.
You just broke BMG's heart by saying Spider-Man's not going to be in that conversation.
It's not. That we've got to be realistic. as much as I think it's going to be an incredible game. And
Spider-Man's Game of the Year.
It is one of my most One of my most anticipated when it comes to the Game of the Year awards. It will fall short for sure. Such is the nature of the game. It's in the competition this year.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Talking about all these Game of the Year contenders, it's great, and I guess we could debate this all day long. But talking about bad games that released this year, and this could lead into our first topic. I'll use this to lead into our first topic.
Sentinel, you haven't told us what you're playing.
Oh, well, I've been playing a lot of Far Cry 6. It released on, PlayStation Plus Premium, and I've been playing it because it's on the service. I pre-ordered it on Xbox, but since it came to PlayStation Plus, I'm playing through it again, really enjoying it. Also live streaming it as well. So
great choice, by the way. I said to you in a private chat, Far Cry 6 is a cracking game, but people are snobby. When it comes to Ubisoft, people are so snobby, and Far Cry 6 is really damn good, man. It's so, honestly, more people should really enjoy it. I'm one of the idiots that pre-ordered it live and got the Steelbook,
Yeah, you know what? And going back through it, it's like at first, when it first launched, I was still kind of comparing it to Far Cry 5, but having some time away from it and going back to play it again, I'm enjoying it a lot more now than I was when it first released.
Yeah, I mean, Far Cry 5, I think, is a better story because there's certainly a lot of, I would say, realism in it.
Yes.
But obviously, Far Cry 6 has got the modern aesthetics and gunplay and all the modern things that we like, whereas Far Cry 5, although I know it's got the new patch recently, certainly hasn't aged as well in terms of gameplay, but it's a much better story.
Yeah, I agree. So with our first topic, obviously, a game that was horrible that launched this year, Lord of the Rings Gollum. It was so bad that the developers actually canceled the next Lord of the Rings game, and they're walking away from development. Now, Lord of the Rings Gollum, of course, is one of the most high-profile misses in the gaming industry in 2023, as the widely panned action game has garnered an average score of 37. This made it quite surprising when news came out that the team was developing yet another game with that license. However, that's no longer the case since it's been canceled. Daedalic Entertainment is stepping away from game development, according to Game Wurzkraft. It's German. Forgive me. Daedalic Entertainment. Yeah, it's again. I'd have to have Boxenberger on here so he could pronounce it properly, because I'm not I don't have that ability to pronounce certain German phrases. So again, forgive me for butchering that, because I'm sure that's not how it's said. Daedalic Entertainment is closing its development studio in Hamburg, Germany, and focusing on publishing instead. It says around 25 of its employees are also being laid off. Did either of you guys play Gollum, or before it launched, did you have the urge to even check it out?
Absolutely fucking not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm there with you. I'm there with you. What about you, VJ? What about you?
I don't really have any comment other than the fact that this is a really good example of a poorly planned and conceived game.
Yeah.
And even worse still, I don't know who the publisher is. If they're of any renown, you might know who the publisher is, and how this is. Do we know who the publisher of the game was? Sorry.
Self-published, VJ.
Oh, self-published. Okay. Well,
yeah, so I think Daedalic Entertainment was,
So in terms of the gating system, everything from conceiving the product, from planning to storyboarding the game out, to the licensing of efforts, to prototyping and pre-production, there's plenty of gating systems just on the development side, let alone on the publishing side, to help avoid these kind of these events happening. I'm not saying that it shouldn't have happened. I'm talking about the event in its entirety. I'm not labeling the studio or the team or the people or the stakeholders involved in the project.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is not a good or a bad situation, as these things happen not just in the games industry but throughout industries. In our own homes, in our own relationships.
Yeah.
And these things happen for a reason. And the way to look at it is you've got to learn from it. You've got to understand it, put your ego aside and move on. And like I was just, sorry, it coincides with Tears of the Kingdom as it can teach you a lot. Tears of the Kingdom as a game
Yeah.
And as a study point, this is also one of those topics which I haven't investigated enough to sort of give you, a profound sort of opinion from my side. But what I can say that there's definitely a lots to learn from it. And to me, I have no idea how the idea actually came about, because I think if there was like, a competition across panel members, on this show, in terms of let's come up with the worst game concept ever and fund it for, whatever it was, 10, 20, 50, 100, $500 million.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that this would have won top prize, right? So
Yeah.
if we can see that, perhaps it would have done really well as a pixelated mobile phone game, right? Collect the rings or whatever, right? You collect your preciouses. I don't know, but the point being is that in terms of the game being released, right? So I'm sorry for asking these silly dumb questions, but if it's been released, it's a testament to how do these things get through into the public arena, right? Given the amount of money that's been invested into it, and probably the effort that's gone into it as well, and what made them think that this game was going to be a success. And again, it's not a judgment thing. It's about understanding it and learning from it so that you don't make those mistakes. So in that respect, I think it's very, very valuable, right? Probably should be like on the tutorial. What is it? Not tutorial, on the what do you call that at Oxford? On the syllabus, right, for educational purposes, right? In terms of Oxford or Cambridge,
for what not to do with a game, right?
Princeton or whatever the US, or Columbia, whatever the US equivalents, or Harvard. There you go. Right. I'm sure BMG's been there a few times. So, but yeah. So it's. I know you can look at the sad and the sort of aspect of it, and perhaps, and so on and so forth, and commiserate and so on and so forth, and also laugh at it. But I think you've got to just look a little bit deeper in terms of what can you learn from it.
Right. BMG, any thoughts on the whole Gollum situation? How this game, whenever it was first announced,
or your time at Harvard.
Right, there you go.
There you go. My time as a Harvard professor and trotting the globe, solving mysteries of history with Mr. Robert Langdon. Probably no one's heard of him or what that is, but good books. Highly recommend reading them. Because Daedalic Games, they've always been a publisher. This was like their first or second game into actually developing a game.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So, but they must have had QA testers and things like that, and the game had multiple delays. If I'm remembering rightly, wasn't it first announced when the PlayStation 5 was announced?
I believe so.
The reveal trailer was then, and it's had all these delays. It's had nearly 2.5 years of delays, and this is the product that they still put out. When they were testing this game, playing this game, putting it, because I know a lot of companies, they bring in third-party companies to like mock review the games and things like that. So whether they did that with this, I don't know. But seeing this game, how did they even think that it was something worth putting out? It was a bad game. It was a really, really bad game.
I think that you were probably the target audience.
See, anything with a bold character, I'm all in. It's right. I've got to support the bold nation. Whether it's good or bad. But yeah, this game should never have seen light of day or in the state that it was in. It was a bad game. And from what we saw and gameplay we saw, what was released was completely different. They changed the Gollum model character and everything. It was a bad game. And the fact that, they didn't announce a new Lord of the Rings game, but it was leaked that there was a Lord of the Rings game coming out. Yeah. And the fact that they've cancelled that, it's sad that they've also laid off 25 staff, which is a shame. So I hope that they land on their feet and end up somewhere else. But yeah, it's just a shame. And like Warner Brothers, they don't care what's put out game-wise, product-wise, as long as someone's put out and they make money. Because people would have bought it, they probably thought maybe it was a cash grab, sell a load of games and be done with it, whether it's good or bad. And it's it's just a shame because they did put a statement out, didn't they? Not long after the game came out and reviewed that they were working on all these fixes. They were going to do this, we're going to do that, but that seems to not be happening now as well. They're just going back to publishing games. Maybe that's where the best to be, but they got, I think it was like 2.2 million they were given in the money that they raised for development and for the game and that, which doesn't sound like a lot for game development.
No,
because it's not like it's an indie game, low budget indie game. It's quite a big license. Lord of the Rings is a very big license, so it probably cost them the majority of that money for just to license the game. But yeah, no, it's a shame that people were laid off, but it's probably best that they don't make games anymore and stick to what they know, which is publishing.
You know, the whole... Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead, VJ.
No. I was going to talk about how licensing works, but I won't. It's probably not for this show. I apologize.
No, go on. I'm interested. No, I'm actually interested. How that would actually... How does that actually work? Now, I'd be interested to know.
Honestly, it's long and it's boring, but it's split up into milestones, or it can be back-ended, and licensing fees sometimes for an aspect of I don't think they probably licensed Lord of the Rings in its entirety because it's obviously one specific character. And pretty much you can back end the whole thing depending on how you negotiate. So I don't think very much of that money was probably used for the licensing aspect of it, unless you're going for something like Harry Potter, where the owners, I think it's jointly owned by J.K. Rowling and Warner Brothers, they would ask for a significant fee up front. But specifically for Gollum, it was probably a punt, in terms of, look, once this game goes gold, a fee kicks in, or once, you know what the ship numbers are. So it can be structured in really ways. And I've known deals to be done, people paying, $1 million for a license, and then, someone else paying for the same license. It typically gets done through the consumer division, consumer product division within a corporation. So if Warner Brothers, makes films, and they'll have a consumer product division where they handle all licensing in and out, and probably out mostly, and they can license the property to somebody for $1 million, and the same property to somebody else in a slightly different category for zero up front. And just depending on how savvy you are as an experience you are in terms of licensing, and it's all pretty much broken up into milestones over a number of years, depending on over the length of or the period of the agreement, so on and so forth. And given the way the game development is, and it's so unpredictable, and given the fact that there were delays, I think that depending on how Warner Brothers were on the situation, because they are flexible in terms of extensions and so on and so forth. But for gaming, you have to be really, really savvy in terms of how you license. As you were saying, BMG, incurring the delays. There's a lot to it, but you get my idea. Depending on how smart you are and how good you are at negotiating, I would say they probably got away with paying very, very little up front. You never know. They might have been paid to do it.
Yeah.
That was a joke. You never know, actually. There's much truth in there. So, yeah, thank you.
I do want to take a moment to give a shout out to our channel members: Muppet 1169, Thimber, UK Dazarus, Slayer Exclusive Gaming, Darren, Matt Kelly, Shadow Mall Back from the Dead, One, Paul AFC, BMG, Stubbs Gaming, Wandering Dutch, and of course yours truly. It only costs 99p to become a channel member, so definitely, if you're thinking about it, you should already be clicking that button to subscribe to our channel. It's definitely worth it. You get all sorts of exclusive content from Ash, him testing out different types of food and other types of exclusive content, so it's definitely worth checking out.
And one day I might do a video where I just sit in a bath or like a pool, and I'll collect water and sell it online.
There you go. See, there you go. BMG flavored water. It's worth 99p. Trust me.
Not after you've seen what he's been doing in it.
Oh, right. No, then he'll be charging twice as much. There you go.
There's the image. There's the image we all want.
Sorry, Sergeant, that was actually a reference to an Only Fools and Horses episode. DFD should know.
Peckham Springs.
No, it's the one where Rodney runs away from home. and he's
Oh god, yeah, up in the top of the tower block, yeah.
Yeah, and everyone's
Gives
getting
the-
high in the tower block because he's been up there smoking away, and because of the ventilation system, everyone in the tower blocks got stoned. So,
Blossom.
Blossom.
Nice.
Oh,
Nice.
Peckham Pouncer. Anyway, sorry, Sentinel. I apologize.
No, hey, it's all good, man. It's all good. It's
beast.
all good. All right. Our next topic is The Last of Us Part 3 and factions details potentially surface. It's been a confusing couple of days for fans of The Last of Us that are eagerly awaiting news of Part 3's development or any tidbits of information about factions for that matter. Recently, it appears that information has emerged regarding both of these projects, but things have gotten a little twisted. From leaks discussing casting info for The Last of Us Part 3 that almost certainly points towards factions, to claim that Part 3's starting filming this year, there are plenty of notes to clean up. This is what seems to be happening.
Sorry, Sergeant. I really apologize. I don't know if we heard from Donnie regarding his favorite game of the year, Gollum.
Oh yeah, he was
no,
the first
to be
one I
fair.
came to.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, listen.
Was that all the effing blinding? Was it? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No,
I actually
it's all
put it in
good.
the chat. One of our guys had to review it for the website, and he wasn't very happy. So you can actually read that in the chat. It's a beauty if anyone wants to read it.
Nice. Yeah, my apologies, Donnie. I just, when I asked you and you said hell no or whatever,
Yeah,
I was like, okay, enough said. It's all good.
Yeah, I think that was enough said. Yeah, don't worry, all good.
All right. So they're saying that The Last of Us Part 3 is in the works. Of course, we know the Last of Us factions got delayed, and now they're saying that it's possible that The Last of Us Part 3 is in development. Are either of you guys a fan of The Last of Us Part 3? Are you looking forward to The Last of Us Part 3 or factions?
Donnie probably
Factions-
soiled his pants over this.
Well, no.
Right.
To be fair, factions, yes, because I'm intrigued to see where it can go with a big budget and with experience and Bungie there and seeing exactly where they want to take it. I'm one of those Last of Us fans that doesn't care for a part 3. It doesn't need it. We saw Ellie's story. It ended tragically, beautifully, and we don't need any more. We don't need to see more of Ellie taking on gangs of people. It's been done. So I'm not bored about a part 3. If there's to be a part 3, I keep saying it, what would be a better story is seeing Joel and Tommy post-apocalypse and their journey, dealing with the new world, and then eventually, obviously, how they then break up when Tommy joins the Fireflies. That's a much more interesting story, if you ask me. So not that bothered. As much as I'll be day one, because I know I will, but I'm like, we don't need a part 3. I'd rather see Naughty Dog either do what I think is a better prequel or put their money in something else, another IP.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's a good point about that. But, before I give my opinion on that, I do want to hear from VJ. What do you think about The Last of Us Part 3 news that it's in the works?
Look, I'm older than probably all of you guys, so sometimes when this has nothing to do with the question or anything like that, but sometimes when I see stuff leaked or some people sharing opinion, sometimes I wish human beings would just mind their own business.
Right. No.
Focus on what's really important that matters in their own lives. Because from my experience and traveling and I spent some time in the game industry and other industries, and is that everything comes into existence for a reason, whether you like it or whether you don't. That's the fundamental truth, right? For me personally, I can only speak from my perspective. So if Naughty Dog wants to make Last of Us 3, whether it's a prequel, which is actually a good idea, Donnie, actually, I wouldn't mind something like that. But that's just for me personally, right? And it's got nothing to do with me. So the people that are going to make Last of Us 3, or whether it's a Last of Us game, with a crossover with God of War, I really couldn't care less, right? Because I'll probably buy it and play it because I really enjoyed The Last of Us Part 1 and 2. And fundamentally for me, we've seen what happens if you try to shoehorn a project into a studio. It can end up in the worst case scenario like the Gollum game, right?
Yeah.
So fundamentally for me, I don't care what the game is because I like Naughty Dog. And as long as it's a collective passion for all of the devs involved, whether it's 100, 200 or 300, whatever the staff count is, and then the endeavor sort of proceeds in that fashion, then I just leave them to it. and hopefully, it will be whatever it is that they've envisioned the game to be, as long as it's not Rise of the Robots or, like we said, or another AC game. But the most important thing for me is the journey and the outcome. Whether it's good or bad, again, for me, is irrelevant. But it all comes fundamentally down to, it's not just Naughty Dog making this game, because if you listen to some of the Sony documentaries of the past, right, the gaming greenlight process isn't just sort of Neil Druckmann saying, I'm going to make this game and that's it, right?
Yeah.
There'll be a strategy based around the level of investment that goes into some of these games, right? And even 5 years ago, right, spending assigning $500 million to a new IP or a new game in a series, right? Like Final Fantasy 15 is not something new, right? This is a 5-10-year-old, sort of, that's how much EA would put aside, right, for planning purposes, financial planning purposes, and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, as long as the studio's bought in, the team is bought in, the stakeholders are bought in, the producers are bought in, not just the producers at the studio, but on Herman Hulse's team. As long as the territories are bought in, and this is all about gating systems, right? And they fundamentally believe that they're going to leverage the talents of the studios. Everyone's buy-in is in there, and because they're not just a gaming company, right? They're a multimedia entertainment. The plans are probably going to be dovetailed into this, right? So whether it's Last of Us 3 or a prequel or something else entirely different, I'm entirely fine, because there are very few luminaries within the industry, and not many studios have them. And for good or bad, right? Or rightly or wrongly, or however you want to look at it, right? Is that Naughty Dog does have a few of those there, and they're still there today, whether you know about them or not. And yeah, so I think that whatever they deliver, we may not be for us, or may not be for you individually, but if they end up with 5 or 10 million, then there's 5 or 10 million people that ended up getting some joy out of it, right? So yeah, I don't want to put my own vastness or desire opinion on it whatsoever, right? Just let it sort of come to fruition, and and see where it leads us. I'm sure soon enough, whether it's today, tomorrow, or next year, or the year after that, we'll find out. Personally, I'm waiting for Ghost of Tsushima 2, right? Now, even that, in my own mind, I've been thinking, does it need a sequel? Should it be something else? And I'm thinking, you know what? Just shut up, VJ, and just let them do what they want to do. Because whatever that experience is, it'll be great, right? Because I saw what was happening up until the launch of Tears of the Kingdom. Everyone's saying, oh, they're just recycling Hyrule, and they're recycling all the animations, and everything about it is just smells of a money grab, and now it's $70. And I have to say, that's so far from the truth. And so opinions doesn't matter. I think the end product is where it counts, and the end product, not in terms of what other people say about it, is once you've experienced and had hands-on yourself.
Right, completely agree with that. Muppet, thank you for the super chat. He said, if people make a good game, then we will play it. It's all about the game. Completely agree. Agree.
And I'm just saying about Naughty Dog is that then they typically, when they make a game, so far, what they try to, I'm not saying they do it every single time, and it's all open, subjective, and so on and so forth, is that they don't try to raise the floor, right, in terms of what they do. What they are as a studio, and the luminaries that they have within the studio, is that they still have a higher ceiling that they can reach, and it's just about how much Sony or PlayStation is able to support them, and the budget that they're able to afford them, given other economic reasons I won't go into as to why game development is actually going up in relation to everything else that's going on besides what we read in the press.
Right. BMG, what are your thoughts about the Last of Us 3 news? Is that something that you're interested in, or are you kind of more ambivalent about it, like I'm not really concerned with it?
To be honest, I'm sort of in the camp that it doesn't need a third game. The way the second ended was, whether you liked it or not, it was a good ending to the game.
Yeah. If
you were going to do a third one, I wouldn't say a prequel, because you sort of got what happened at the start of the first game and the TV show as well. The TV show pretty much said how it all happened, how it all came about, and you kind of got that drip fed to you through the games anyway. If they are making a third one, it's definitely something they're going ahead with, and it's in this pre-production. Because I think somewhere it says they start motion capture next month. I'd rather go somewhere completely different, a different part of the world, because obviously this is taking over the world. Somewhere completely different characters, tell a different story. If they're going to do a third one, I would go that route personally, but we don't need one. We need a new Uncharted game. That is what we need. Uncharted is for me is Naughty Dog's best series franchise they've ever made, and I love the Uncharted series, and I would love a new one with Nathan Drake, not his daughter or son or anyone else. I want another Nathan Drake story. 4 was a really good game.
Yeah, he
was retired from the business, ended up getting dragged back into it because of his brother, and it ended well. But I think there's still more stories they could tell, even if they do some in between. Bit of a prequel in between what happened on different adventures. Something like that. But factions, I think that's the thing everybody wants. That's what people want to see. That's what we've been waiting for it for a long time. Factions is really good. It's a good multiplayer. I know Bungie sort of stepped in and said the model you're doing is not going to work, and they've sort of gone back and they're reworking that. But whatever they come back with, hopefully this year, we'll get some more on that. But yeah, it's Last of Us. It's an okay series. It's a good game, good storytelling, looks amazing. The remake looks amazing, but they don't need a third game.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the way they ended The Last of Us Part 2 kind of closed off that story. I agree with Donnie that a prequel where it focuses on Joel and Tommy would be great, because there's essentially 20 years after Sarah, his daughter, was killed. Anyone who hasn't played it, apologize. But, there's 20 years where he was basically going from being a father and not too bad of a guy to being one of those guys that would set up traps and kill people. Again, if you haven't played the game, I apologize. But, he says this through dialogue, that he became pretty much a very bad man. And I think that's a great premise for The Last of Us Part 3, which is actually a prequel. They can do basically what Rockstar Games did with Red Dead Redemption 2, and the technical sequel is actually a prequel. You understand? So I think there's tons of just source material there where they could really make a great game if they want to make it The Last of Us. I understand they have the TV series now. They're going to want to have multiple seasons of that. But every season doesn't have to line up with like The Last of Us Part 2 and The Last of Us Part 3, because it's just, you're going to want to have 5, 6, 7 seasons from this. And if they're deviating, then there's going to be changes to it. And after the first one, I'd say you can't really expect it to be one for one anymore. It felt like they tried that with the TV series.
They've already confirmed that the part 2 of the game will take place over season 2 and 3. So they're going to have some filler in or some backstory in along the way. Which is, again, it's what I think they might do in the TV show, is tell the sort of post-apocalypse but pre-part 1 storyline, and maybe could bring Tommy in for a few more episodes, again, maybe going back 10 years or whatever. There's bound to be something like that. It's got to be.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if the storyline of the game will follow anything to do with what HBO are doing, because it's very difficult to straddle or timeline game development with TV show production. I think it's almost probably impossible. But
it'd be nearly impossible.
For me, it doesn't matter what the game is called, you see, or what the setting is, because if tomorrow they launch a trailer, or a year from now, just proverbially speaking, if they launch something and it wows you, it doesn't matter what the game is called, because if it captures your imagination, whatever it is, right? If it captures your imagination in terms of, wow, look at that game, look at what I can do. I know what Naughty Dog's offered me before in terms of Last of Us and the Uncharted series, etc., etc. And if it starts to, and if the more they reveal, it starts to capture imagination more. That's what it's about at the end of the day. you are going to want to play it regardless of the name of the game. When I play a video game, just because I tell you I'm playing this game, when I'm playing the game for 200 hours, I don't think about what the product's called. If that makes sense, right? And I don't really, think about, every character and this and that and the other to that deep level. I just like, how immersive is it fundamentally, and am I having fun with it? And I think we get caught up in the terms of, oh, this character, is this person going to return? Is it going to be called this? And is it going to be, another story with another characters in the same world setting? I think it doesn't matter. It's just a case of how far can Naughty Dog or any other studio push the boundaries of immersiveness and capturing the audience's imagination to have them driven towards playing that content, and that becomes, a beloved, game in the, I don't know, in the gaming, the hall of gaming, whatever you want to call it. So, right. So I think that's what's really, really important. So whether it's a completely new IP or whether it's set in the Last of Us. I mean, Neil does come across a bit of a morbid person, right? So, or a pessimistic person, right? But in terms of how it imbues and how his personality sort of unfolds into these games, I don't know if anyone else has felt that. But not that it's a bad thing. I'm actually totally fine with it. It just opens up us to new experiences, right? In terms of how he sees things. And that's the point, right? You try to see things from everybody else's perspective. But fundamentally, if they drop a trailer tomorrow, because I actually didn't think The Last of Us Part 1, after that, I thought that would be it, right? When number 2 came, I thought, but when I saw what it potentially had to offer, I thought, it doesn't matter. I have to experience that in for what it is, right? Regardless of what the story or characters, etc., are. And I'm glad that I did.
Oh, yeah, completely agree. I do want to take a chance right now to acknowledge everyone in the chat. Thank you so much for watching our podcast so far. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you to everyone in the chat, of course. UK Desirous, Stubbs Gaming, Pixel Slapper Muppet, Luke Steele, Thimber. I think Zaffo was here. If I forgot anyone, of course, I apologize. But thank you if you have been watching it thus far. Definitely hit that like button, share it with people on social media so that they know our podcast is live. Thank you so much for all your support. We do appreciate it. VJ, I did want to springboard off of something that you mentioned about costs, and that leads us into our next topic. Now, of course, the case with Activision, Blizzard, FTC. We're not really going into that too much, but there was a court document that had marked out in pen some very vital information about some of the costs that PlayStation basically had to pay for some of their games. Now, 2 of those games, of course, were The Last of Us Part 2 and Horizon Forbidden West. According to this document, Horizon Forbidden West cost $212 million to make and was worked on by around 300 employees for 5 years. The Last of Us Part 2 cost $220 million to make and was worked on by around 200 people for over 5 years. Now, Sean Layden, who was the former PlayStation boss for America, he left, I believe, at the end of last generation. He oversaw the development of The Last of Us Part 2, and he expressed his opinion that these costs were unsustainable. VJ, you had mentioned before about the costs. What do you feel about his statement that these are unsustainable, and hearing that these costs are actually over $200 million? What are your thoughts about that?
I think that the sustainability part, I think it needs more investigation. I have to disagree with him to a point, actually, because at the end of the day, if Sony is a corporation, EA, well, look at Take-Two, right? If they feel that level of investment is managed, you've seen the potential results, right? With what was the last one? Red Dead Redemption, was it? I haven't played it, so
Red Dead Redemption 2 was the last. Well, I mean, they have the Grand Theft Auto one, but the real standalone where it's a new IP or kind of new, it's a new game, was Grand Theft Auto 2. Or I'm sorry, Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm getting Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead mixed up.
I think costs are irrelevant as long as you understand what it is you're investing in, what you expect the return to be, and eventually, fundamentally, what you are doing, you are investing in people. Right, so it's your ability to read the people that you're investing into in terms of, do they want to deliver and can they deliver, and what's their track record? Track records only go so far, because obviously you're only as good as your last game, and you don't know how, and you've got to predict the market 5 years ahead, right? I mean, I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow, let alone in 5 years' time. So, and just to be clear, dev costs, whether they're 10 grand, 50 grand, 200 million, 300 million or more, is just one facet of the overall costs, right? And I think perhaps what is it Sean Layden or Jack Trenton or David Howe or Andrew House, whoever these guys are, right? Because what he's probably taking into consideration, I'm trying to just think what he's thinking about, right? It's not just the dev cost, because there's ongoing royalty costs to the studios, right, for hitting various milestones, and then the game's performance and so on and so forth. Then there's all the publishing costs, right? Manufacturing, sales, marketing. Because if you look at sales, right, they use sales reps agencies, or they have agencies in each and every state, right, that are either, and knowing Sony, they probably have their own distribution infrastructure, right? So they've all those costs involved, right? All their marketing divisioning costs, which, they're not employing sales and marketing people just at the back end of the game, right? These people are there. I think Phil Rosenberg, right? He's been there almost like for 20 years, right? In charge of Sony PlayStation Division. And he had his own external sales company in Chicago back in the day, right? So so basically, there's all these costs that he's probably considering, right? And then obviously his salary, right, which is probably about 10 million a year. No, I'm just kidding. So if you take So basically what he's doing is just taking, 200 people over 5 years, say a fixed cost of 15K per head internally, right? And remember, I'm factoring in overheads, desk costs, PC state workstations and everything, right? And that's what, roughly, 200, my maths is not brilliant, but 36 million per annum, and probably 180 million over 5 years, right? So the 200 and, 212 and 220 you mentioned, was that right? So and those additional costs you can attribute to probably to outsourcing, right? And so the overall cost of the game and launching it, and price protection and marketing and sales and all that is probably way more than the 200 dev development cost, right? So that's why it's only one facet of it. So and then if you start, the other 30 million, if you start bringing in costs like external resources, whether it's talent, acting talent, and so on and so forth, motion capture, etc., and so on and so forth, the talent required for that, QA, and vendors required for that, and so on and so forth, whether they're for major whether they're contributing in a major way to the game, right? excuse me. But I think you've also got to look at what CDPR have come out and said quite some time ago. I don't know if it was post The Witcher or prior to what was the other game, Cyberpunk, great game, by the way, but I enjoyed it anyway. So, and they said that making that game in Warsaw was okay for them, but they would never have been able to afford to make that in the West. There's something, I'm paraphrasing here, so someone may want to check those facts, right? And on top of that, I think what other thing that Sean Layden is probably alluding to the fact that he knew at the time, and I only came to know, sort of a year or two ago myself, but costs are rising, as I've mentioned, especially in California due to Google and Xbox. Yeah. Contributing to artificially increasing salaries in order to hire staff away from other studios and from other creative companies within Hollywood. And resource is not an issue for guys like Google and Xbox, but it is for someone like Nintendo and Sony, right? Yeah. Especially Sony, where they've invested a significant amount right on the West Coast in terms of the amount of development studios they owned, right? And they perhaps didn't forecast, and it probably was, and it's difficult to do so, that suddenly Google and Xbox were going to come in and set up studios and start paying through the nose, right? Because they just had the resource, the finance, the power, and the influence to do so, right? Again, I'm not judging. It's just the way it's working, right? Just the way it is, just what we can observe, right? And I think that's partially why, Ubisoft and EA, I don't know if you guys know, right? They have a significant presence in Canada, and they have done for decades, and it's due to government grants and tax incentives. But obviously that comes with a limitation in terms of talent available, unless you can get people to move there, right? And so on and so forth. And I remember going onto the government websites, where even they on their website say, game development costs are anything between $100,000 to $300 million, right? So it is public knowledge, and their contribution to these tax incentives and grants, etc., to Ubisoft and EA are quite significant, right? And perhaps that's why Sony have invested in Haven, right? It's probably not costing them as much as it would setting up a studio on the West Coast. So I'm
Right.
just trying to think about why Sean Layden would have said that. Now, the more I'm talking about it, more things are coming through. My brain's a bit rusty at the moment because I haven't really given it that much thought. But I can understand that the games are costing more than just the $200 million, if that makes sense. And it does actually go back to what EA said probably a decade ago, where, look, when we're creating a new IP or we're considering a project, we've got to put $500 million aside for it.
Yeah.
And that's probably about right, because speaking to some other companies that are not EA, that are not Ubisoft, that are not Capcom, that are not Konami, well, not Konami these days, that is not Sony, even studios and companies that you haven't heard of are kind of having to financially plan out for major projects to that degree. And you guys know yourself what games retail for. You know already, and this in the public domain, how much Sony and Microsoft, take 30% right off the top.
Yeah.
But again, what I will say, I'm not under NDA anymore, is that royalty rates are typically on a sliding scale. So the more you sell, you actually get rebates. I don't know if that's still the case now, but it was when I was in the industry. So if your game would hit 1 million, 5 million, 10 million, you would get rebates as an incentive, right? If you're a major publisher. But obviously, Take-Two and Ubisoft and EA, I'm sure they've got preferential deals straight off the bat.
Right.
So anyway, I'm digressing slightly, but you can understand that these are massive investments, and that's why I say that whether it's The Last of Us 3 is greenlit and so on and so forth, I think Sony are a careful company. They're a conservative company. They were when I was in the industry. And fundamentally, when they're earmarking that kind of money, which is a lot for Sony, if you think about it, 10 years ago, they were really struggling, right? They had to sell off, their buildings that they owned, right? In Tokyo, in Shibuya, and as well, or it might be Shinjuku, as well as New York, right? They had to do a sale and lease back on their corporate headquarters, right? After owning those buildings for 50 years, right? To actually financially restructure their company. So like Nintendo coming back from the Wii U, right, which was probably U-turn, right, on the Wii success, right? That's how I look at it, or a U-bend in the toilet. Anyway, the point being, that's probably BMG's piping as we're talking, but fundamentally the point being, right, these guys have come back from adversity, and you can understand why they're conservative, because that's probably, even 10 years on, is probably still fresh in the mouth, right? The sour taste of the PS3 and so on and so forth. And $500 million is a lot of money. So what I would say is that if studios are investing that kind of money, and if Sean Layden, to his credit, has highlighted that as an issue publicly, as a bit of an echo to remind Sony, like, what's at stake, then I think it's a good thing. But yeah, it's the nature of the beast, because you're not like hiring actors, doing a film shoot in 6 weeks or 2 months, and then post visual effects, and then on the cutting room floor, or however it's done digitally now, in creating films. You're actually creating assets, the world, everything from scratch. It's a massive undertaking, so there's a lot to unpack. There's a lot to consider. There's a lot that goes on, right? So yeah, I understand what he's saying. And who'd want to be in charge of that, right? And not just one project, right? Multiple projects, right? And then juggling them and ensuring that they come to fruition. That's why, when it was the Deviation Games, was it that was canned? Is that right? I'm not completely up to it. I saw something about Deviation Games being cancelled.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, PlayStation cancelled it.
Yeah, and that to me is fundamentally how you run your business, right? You're as ruthless as possible. You look at it, and not ruthless. I would say if you're in the industry and entertainment industry, you have to be creatively ruthless, because otherwise it will kill you, unless you're Microsoft, who have an acute level of influence, resource, and power, right? And they can sustain it. And that's why Sega went out of business fundamentally after Shenmue, and Square Enix had to merge fundamentally after the launch of I forgot the guy's name now, the creator of Final Fantasy. After his Final Fantasy movie, right? Because financially they hadn't planned as in terms of what happens and a what if scenario if these games or movies fail, right? And then Square obviously we know merged, and Sega obviously were acquired by Sammy, right, by Satomi-san. So
yeah.
But yeah, so you kind of have to look at every aspect of it. And I'm talking on the fly here, because obviously you raised the question, and I haven't done much research or looked into it. I'm just recalling.
No, that's perfect though. I just want to hear how you feel about it. It's all good. That's perfect.
I'll just shut up now.
No, it's good. I appreciate your insight and your thoughts on this. Sometimes you can do tons of research, and it's just facts and it's statistics, but it's more important about how you feel about this type of news, especially since, like you said, you're older than any of us on this panel, and you've seen gaming way back since its infancy, so
Not
you understand
necessarily
how.
wiser.
Yeah, well,
Sorry.
no, it's all good. It's all good. But you've seen gaming come from the Atari days all the way through where it is today. So you have a pretty good idea of, different types of stuff like this. And of course, this show isn't necessarily about all of us having the facts. It's about our opinions on the matter. So
Ruthlessness in the games industry is an extremely underestimated trait. Not many people do it. Because
Right.
because Gollum is a perfect example. They would have known pre-production, at the end of pre-production, and I think that everybody was just seeing the Emperor's New Clothes, and now you have the outcome for it, and that's one thing you can learn. So when studios are shut down, what you have to look at everybody in life, people only remember the last thing that they do for somebody, right, before you're blocked or this, that, and the other. So, and for me, I've seen Sony do some fantastic things, and I've seen them do some things that I thought, that's slightly crossing the line, putting it mildly. So for me, but again, they gave Deviation a chance, right? They earmarked $50 million or whatever for them initially, right? And they gave those people a job. They gave them an opportunity, right? And do you know how hard it is to raise money? I mean, I don't know if it was you. Sorry, Sento, if it was you, there was something wrong. I think there was something wrong with your pet or something, right? You know how difficult it is to even raise $1, right? To earn $1 these days, right? So to be given, to be able to present and to be afforded, millions of dollars as an opportunity, because remember, development isn't like, oh, here's the money, make the game, see you in 4 years. It's all gated. It can be cancelled at any time, right? That's the whole point of producers, right? To call out what the issues are. And it's always good to call out the issues because then you can address them. And if you can't address them, then you cancel it. And cancellations, the ones that we come to hear about, believe me, there are far more projects that are cancelled or swept under the carpet, people put on under NDAs, not to talk about, et cetera, and paid off than you realize. And but what I don't like is people sensationalizing it or criticizing about it, because that money had to come from somewhere. Someone had to make the commitment, and the opportunity was given. Whether you took the opportunity, whether you didn't, or whether you succeeded, whether you didn't, that's not the point, right? It's that you did get the opportunity, and it was up to you whether you made something out of it. And again, it's not a judgment, because good and bad, you can always learn something from it.
Right. Donnie, what are your thoughts about what Sean Layden said about it being unsustainable?
I think the point is valid, but it depends on what you mean by unsustainable. What it means is, are we going to make enough profit for our shareholders ultimately?
Yes.
Unsustainable to me is making one thing. Unsustainable to a rich shareholder. So it's all relative. What I would say to kind of counteract Sean Layden's point is there is validity, because if you think a game costing, we'll use Last of Us, etc., $200 million, plus then thinking about marketing budgets, at basic retail price, assuming it's sold digitally, that's what, 5 million copies just to break even.
Yeah,
that's a lot of copies of a game just to break even.
And people laughed at EA when they said that about 10 years ago.
Yeah. But what I would say is that if you ignoring Nintendo, if you look at the last 20 years of gaming and look at sales numbers, they're growing. The number of units sold. Look at, God of War sells more than what the original God of War does. Things like Uncharted 4 would have sold more than Uncharted 1, etc. So, games are selling more to cover those costs as well. I think Sean Layden's point that it's unsustainable, it probably was unsustainable when games sold 3 to 5 million copies. But when they're selling 8, 9, 10 into 20s, suddenly, is it really unsustainable? The problem is that to shift 5 million is a lot, and that's a big risk. That's you flunk 3 of those and it's trouble time, like VJ said. It wasn't that long ago Sony were in trouble. Wasn't that long ago Nintendo was in trouble. Wasn't that long ago Microsoft almost shut down Xbox. So
let me ask you
that as well.
Let me ask you a question, Donnie, and let me ask you this, VJ. You guys are both PlayStation fans, yes?
I'm not a
I've
fan.
got all consoles.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm
yeah,
not really
consoles.
I'm a fan of gaming. Yeah.
Okay, but let's say PlayStation took one of its IPs, and because you guys might like different types or different genres, I'm just going to keep it open. Let's say they had it.
Sergeant, you were trying to pigeonhole me and Donnie there for
No,
a minute. And
no.
we were
I'm
in
gonna-
a straitjacket there for a moment. Sorry,
No,
go on.
I'm gonna keep it open. Let's just say it's a PlayStation IP that you played 10 or 20 years ago. And again, I'm keeping it open. I'm not gonna name a specific one. But let's say you heard that PlayStation was going to really give it the AAA development. They were going to bring it back from the dead, and they were going to sell it for $70. And it was one of your favorite franchises from the PlayStation portfolio. Would you want to buy it day one?
Yes, I don't see any reason why not.
And that's well, VJ. What say you?
I'll be getting Metal Gear Solid 3 day one, and that's
Yeah.
essentially the same question. So
Right.
yeah. As long as, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to buy it on blind faith. If the game looks
Yeah.
like shit and everything, you know, and all those other bits involved, then no. But assuming that the game obviously looks great and and it ticks all the boxes, then yeah, the fact that it's an old game and they're charging me 70 quid. If it's end of the day, I'm here to play games. That it's my favorite hobby, you know. So
Right. Oh, well, what about you, VJ? If you saw an IP that you loved from back in the day on PlayStation, and they said, "Hey, $70, but it gets the AAA treatment, $200 million is what we're using to develop it," would you want to buy it day one, or at least within the first month of it releasing?
It really depends, because for me, yeah, the way I see it is this, yeah, is that when what was it? You're gonna have to forgive me here. Was it the Last of Us remake? Was it that was released
Yeah.
at $60 or $70?
Yeah.
And it was released 10 years ago or whatever. So
Yeah.
there's always, I think, again, if Sony have done their homework, they'll know there is an audience for that game, and they'll
Right.
just be open for it, and they say, here's $70. The way I look at it is this, right? Is that there are games released out there from Nintendo. Let's just take them, no offense to Nintendo. There are games
Yeah.
out there, right? Like Yoshi's World or whatever, which is a lovely game, cute game, 8 hours long, $60. There's games like Mario Odyssey out there. You can put 50, 60 hours, $60. So the way I look at it, right, for me, I'm from an era when I was paying £200, right, which is about $300 for Neo Geo games, right, PC Engine GT games, right, and I was paying for WonderSwan, I was paying for Game Gear, I was paying for Mega Drive, I was paying Super Famicom. I remember Street Fighter Japanese imports was $150, right, back in England,
Yeah.
80 quid or something, and that time the exchange rate was 2-1, right, it wasn't 1.29 or 1.22, whatever it is. So I think the cost of gaming is really different for me. I can't try to keep to a budget as much as I possibly can, right? We're not all made of money, right? Like a lot of
Right.
these people, especially Stubbs Gaming from the Lord of Rutland. The point being,
Right.
the point being, right, is that I think that games, there are games that come out that that you play that are probably worth $30 to $40, and there are games that come out that are so meaningful and so important and have so much scope to them that I wouldn't mind of paying $100. So to take Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, if that was $100, I probably would have still bought it, right? Just
Right.
as an example, right? Number two, what I would say is that some of these IPs that are 10 or 20 years old, right? And I've often said this to myself, right? Is that just for an example, I'm not saying these are the games, but if Gears 1, 2, and 3, right? And God of War 1, 2, and 3, right, were all remastered or remade and so on and so forth, and said, guys, look, these IPs are 20 years old. Just for an example, right? Imagine
Yeah.
and they were going to be released multi-format, right? I wouldn't have a problem with it, right? Because
Right.
I think that's a sensible way to go, right? It's like Sony already doing it on PC, where they're saying, hey, look, this game's available on PS5 day one here, but in about a year or 18 months or 2 years down the line, it'll be available on PC at the same price. So even that business model would be in my mind and saying, look, these IPs are 20 years old or whatever, we're going to remake them, they're popular, so forth, so why not just release it everywhere? And I think that Sony may be reticent to do that, but I think Microsoft are in a position where they can do it and they've got nothing to lose, unless they really, and if they're saying that we don't care about exclusivity and so on and so forth, we want everything to be multi-format, so we want to create the utopia of gaming, everything is a vision. Well, Microsoft's approach right now is no longer a vision, because they need to understand the difference between vision and desire. Vision is a word that means all inclusive, right? And that vision has suddenly become a desire because now they're making games exclusive. So that vision, anything time they talk about vision, I switch off now, because it was just bullshit, right? Either that or they don't haven't read the Oxford Dictionary. Perhaps they've got a different dictionary in the USA. I don't know. I've been there for 7 years, but
Right.
10 years now. So you know, I live in California, right? So there's just the meaning of the word they need to understand before they use them, right? And I'm a kind of a guy that digs into minutiae of things, right, when I have the time to do so. So I think releasing games in other formats not a problem. They're already doing it with MLB, and they're already doing it with other games from Microsoft, Minecraft, or so on and so forth. So yeah. And if it was a game that I missed, and I talked about this at the beginning, Mario RPG, I missed it the first time round. Now it's being remade. It's going to be $60. I'm going to buy it. So that answers the question there, right? So I'm a fan of Square, and I'm a fan of Mario. And just talking on game development budgets, right, unsustainability and so on and so forth. But if you look at Nintendo, right, they announced, I don't know when this was, maybe perhaps Donnie knows, or you know, Sentinel. They announced that the pricing, this game would not be $60, it'll be $70. That's $10 a unit. They sold 10 million units in the first 3 days or 4 days or a week, for $70 million. And if the game development budget was $220 million, that's a third of the development cost covered just by raising the price.
Yeah,
right?
I was going to say, VJ, that this is why as
that
well.
Game deserves to be $70. So I think that at the time when Sean Layden came into power, or was in power, when he made those comments, he probably didn't take into account that the game pricing would potentially go up as well, right? And the fact that, I don't know when he sent the comment, Donnie, but the fact that if you look at Sony's latest results, or from a month or two ago, the jump in digital sales versus physical is humongous, right?
Yeah,
from
66%,
4 or 5 years ago. It's gone from like 20% to 70, 75%. And I can tell you now, if you go to Japan, and if you go to the Japan retail stores, right, especially in Akihabara, if you go to Softmap, if you go to Laios, if you go to Big Camera, all of those stores which are predominantly selling PlayStations and PlayStation games and Sony and Xbox and Nintendo and so on and so forth, only Nintendo have retail facings. Microsoft were the first, I think, that reduced their retail facing, then Sony, and now they're both doing it very aggressively in order to educate people to buy digitally. And Nintendo are keeping retail facings of their games, even older games, primarily because they have iconic Disney-like characters that the only reason why they're not using them just to predominantly sell games, because they're obviously people are buying digital on Nintendo Switch as well, is to keep those Kirby, Princess Zelda, Princess Peach as well, Luigi and Mario and Link and all their icons, right, in public view at all times, right? Because obviously, you guys probably know better than me, but obviously, they are making huge strides over the last 10 years in terms of the trade licensing shows that they attend, in terms of expanding out the consumer division in Japan, because they're obviously licensing out. You only have to look at the MLB, right? They've got like 450 licensees, right? No, they're the licensor, licensees, right? It's huge business, big business. And Nintendo in the past have been reticent or reluctant to hand out their IP to different vendors, right? Whether they're making figures or making pack lunch bunches or pencils or underwear. Well, underwear probably be my go-to anyway. But the point being, right, it's big business, and there's a lot of money to be made there from licensing, but it also takes very careful management, because how Nintendo are about protecting their IP. So that also, if you look at that, right, and if you look at Sony saying, well, look, we're probably not going to make Kratos underwear, but we will make Kratos the TV show, the Last of Us TV show. So people are saying, oh, they're just trying to make TV shows and blah blah blah. Who cares? Blah blah blah. blah. No. They, like, in order to, again, whether it's fair warning from Sean, right? And it was a very careful, I don't know how long ago that statement was, but obviously I think people have listened to it. They haven't just sort of turned their eyeballs up at it. Sony have taken look, the guy's got a point. So what's the active approach in terms of mitigating our development costs? Okay, increase price. Let's license out our content. Let's, get involved with coordinating, content that we release in terms of the Spider-Man game, leveraging it with the Spider-Man movie and how it looks and the merchandise. I don't know if they've got a separate license for merchandising, or if that's just with Disney, and they've licensed that to third-party vendors that are creating content in parallel to the release of the game. So I'm trying to speak quickly here, just so that, because I know that time is of the essence, right? Because I could go on for days. The point being, right, you can understand the steps that Sony are taking, for good or bad, and you get these egotistical, idiotic, reactionary comments on most podcasts. Right? I won't mention this one because I haven't listened to this one enough to say so, but I won't say that anyway in case we're getting beaten up by Sentinel. He's only just down the road from me. But the point being, right, you can see how Sony are having to think out of the box, doing the things that we may turn our noses up to, but they're having to do it out of necessity in order to survive.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think the changing of the times, especially with how expensive gaming is why a lot of these companies are now going with games as a service. And I mean, we saw that at the recent PlayStation showcase. A lot of people weren't necessarily happy, especially with a lot of these classic IPs that are single player experiences sitting on the shelf. But I think with these costs going up, games as a service are going to become more and more common, even for the big companies like PlayStation and Xbox.
Can you just define games as a service? Because I'm not entirely familiar with it. So if anyone
Fortnite is games as a service. It's
or separate.
No, like a game that keeps going on and on that basically can sell you stuff. It doesn't have to be pay to win. It can just be cosmetic stuff. But I think a lot of these companies want their game to be a service, meaning that over time you'll buy a skin for this character or you'll buy a special weapon.
Can you just name a couple of games so just so I've got a bit more context around it? Like, is that Fortnite or something like that? Or
yeah,
Destiny?
I mean, you could say Destiny is kind of games as a service, especially since they went free to play. Of course, Fortnite is as well. Warzone, you could say Warzone 2.0 is games as a service because it's free to download, but for basically for things in game you have to pay for. So that's essentially what I think these bigger companies are looking for. They don't want you to pay $70 and get everything. They want you to buy stuff over time. They're looking for regular, like kind of residual income almost.
Yeah, no, I totally I totally understand the portion of microtransaction income,
Yeah.
but I'm not a huge fan of games as a service.
No, I'm not either.
I say that, but I don't think I've experienced it enough to make that call. But at the same time, the number of people that are playing gas games, I'm assuming that's the shorthand for it, is that it's a different consumer these days compared to what I was 30, 40 years ago, right? So
yeah,
it's there's obviously a demand for it, right? And like you said, so you've got to sometimes roll with the times to a degree, but that's why I'm so grateful that there's still Nintendo there, still making games in the traditional fashion and in a traditional business model, which I completely understand and I'm on board with and I'm happy with, because I get, if I pay $50, $60, $70, I know that I'm going to get a quality game in return that I'll spend 100 or 200 hours in, and that's fine. And Game Pass at the same time, I pay my money and I know that I'll finish a game or two, which otherwise I would have ended up spending otherwise. And again, if that's sustainable is another debate, right? Game Pass or they're making 200 million games and selling them at $70. At the end of the days, right? I think Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft have all done a good job in expanding the number of people that have adopted console gaming, which is great, which has allowed developers to have more funding to create better games on better technology because they know the consumption is available via various business models. And I think that overall, no matter how much we perhaps, excuse my language, bitch and moan, we live in privileged times.
Right. No, I completely agree. Donnie, BaldManGamer,
There's too much agreeing going on, Sentinel.
No, I mean, because you bring up a lot. You bring up a lot of good points, and I completely agree. I do. We're on the same wavelength.
The only thing I was going to just elaborate on a little bit was, obviously, you mentioned digital sales, which is spot on. I was thinking 66% of PlayStation's sales are digital, which obviously is 100% money minus obviously local VATs and whatever else. But what you're also seeing now is over the last, especially 3 years, is the digital deluxe versions, which, you're paying an extra £10, $10 to get a couple of skins. And we all pay it. I certainly pay it. For Spider-Man, I'm paying the extra tenner to get those extra 10 skins. And it's that alone, you multiply that for the sake of designing a few skins, which would have taken no time at all, that adds up. And that's a big, big turnaround. So all these little things will definitely help. I mean, look at, to take Starfield. Starfield are literally, if you've got Game Pass, there's a £35 or $35 upgrade to get the game 5 days early. And that's one of the most predatory things I've seen in gaming, by the way. I fundamentally disagree with that.
I'm not a fan
35
either.
quid to get a game 5 days early. You're not really getting it early. All they've done is they've pushed the release date out 5 days and gone, oh, 35, an extra 35 quid a person, because they know most people will do it.
Yeah, and people, you know what consumers are like, right? I mean, I remember when Diablo had something similar. I know it's not from Microsoft, but I was on my Xbox and I clicked, and I saw, let's see what people are playing, and like prior to launch, nearly everyone was on a list of about 10 people. I think 70% of them, 60 or 70% of them were playing Diablo early. So obviously they paid for early access, is what they call it.
Yeah, it's certainly, obviously you got up. It wasn't as much as 35. I think it was 15-ish, and obviously you got access to season 1 as well. But certainly,
well, I think Donnie, this is the way I looked at it, right? When I heard, and I thought it was a joke or something, when they said that, Sentinel knows this, right? They said that, Game Pass is going up $2, and I said, well, Starfield was out last year. Would have been paying $17 for Game Pass a year ago. And for me, over a course of years, let's just say that's on average, that's the lifespan of a video game, right? Before it starts dropping in price. Is that if you take that and you take the number of users that they currently have, which is is it 30 million, and the increase that they probably envision, and if you just take a ballpark, that's $1 billion, and if you divide that by the current retail price point, that's 12 to 15 million units, where that's how they're making their retail sales count in respect to Starfield, right? Because that equates to about 12 to 15 million retail sales units, right, of Starfield. I said that's how they're recouping. And it's really plain to see, really obvious to see. And normally, look, I've been on Xbox for a long time, and just now, and normally, you can see where they're tightening up, because even on you start off with each month and you can get 2,000 points, right, if you do all the various things over the course of the month. This is not Game Pass. This is just the activities, like on your weekly activities and so on and so forth. And now they've reduced it to 1,000 points, because somewhere on their balance sheet, not everybody spends all their points. They'll have a number there which will say, hold on a minute, this is effectively a credit or liability of, I don't have many millions, right, of dollars, right, based on the number of users that haven't used up their points. And they've probably got a cap on it. So look, how do we mitigate that going forward? Because we need to start making money. So you can see the little changes that Microsoft are making. And it's really, really interesting. And I said, look, there will come a point of convergence when they'll want to make things happen. And the biggest problems at Microsoft, and I said this about 3 years ago on another podcast, boom, so it's there. I said culture, creativity, and consistency have always been their problem, and their lack of vision and a luminary to guide the company. Power, resource, and influence, they've got in abundance. So it's pretty much brute forcing their way through the industry, and they've been doing it. I was in the industry before they even came into it, right? So I know kind of what went on around the time. And I don't know if you know, Donnie, but at the time, I remember people are talking about Xbox, being a dominant force. I remember the press at the time, right, just prior to launch of the Xbox, and the press was wild, and they were saying, my goodness, if you look at Microsoft's financials and look at the install base of the PlayStation, actually Microsoft could afford to, put a box in everybody's home for free of charge. That's how aggressive they could be. And 25 years on, well, whatever you think about their resource, they've multiplied by a number that's I probably can't pronounce, right, in terms of the resources that they have today compared to when just before they entered the market and what people thought of their capacity then. And I think Nintendo and Sony have always been the underdog in comparison to Microsoft. I think those two are probably thinking, why is it taking Microsoft so long, right, to wake up? It's not David versus Goliath, right? It's an independent company that's listed on the stock market versus almost a company that has the resources of a very wealthy nation.
Yeah. Microsoft is definitely powerful, and they do have a lot of funds at their disposal. It is that point in our
wise with it.
Yeah, it is that point in our podcast where we transition to 20 questions. And BMG actually has a game in mind for today's 20 questions. Now, VJ, I think Donnie's played it, but VJ, we have a kind of a gaming-focused 20 questions at the end of every podcast where one of the panel members has a game in mind, and you have to ask yes or no questions. And you basically have 19 guesses. The 20th has to be where you say, is it? And then you name whatever game you think it is. If you get it right, of course, you win. And the XPN network winning streak continues, but unfortunately, if you get it wrong, the losing streak ends today. And like I said, it is a video game. It's not going to be on PC or mobile. It is on console. So basically what you'll do is you'll try to narrow it down and kind of figure out which, which systems it was on, if it's an exclusive, if it's an action game, stuff like that. But it has to be yes or no questions.
You know I'm terrible at Trivial Pursuit, right?
It's fine. You got two other people, Donnie and myself, that will help you out.
And I'm 2 for 2, so let's keep this going as well.
There you go. So don't worry, VJ. We got your back. Like I said, BMG has a game in mind. So do either of you have any questions about this?
Nope.
What's the game called?
20 questions.
Video game 20 questions. And
Yep.
just point out as well, you're not allowed to use the internet or anything like that. You
Yep.
have to use your mind palace.
Use your
and all
noggin.
your gaming knowledge to guess.
That's
what
a Sherlock
game
Holmes
is.
reference, right?
Oh yes, that it is.
Yep.
So, without further ado, chat, please. If you've got any questions to help the panel along, please drop them in to help. But other than that, let the questioning begin.
All right. I'll let Donnie go first.
Is the game part of an existing franchise?
No.
All right. And Donnie and VJ, just so you know, as we ask these questions, I am going to be typing out the questions in our private chat so we can keep track of them. So we're not asking the same question more than once. VJ, you're up.
Oh, God. This is the problem, you see. I always have about 1,000 questions because let's see.
Just start with broad and we'll work our way down to more specific questions.
Single player. Is it single player game?
Yes.
Okay.
Did this game come out before the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 generation? Before?
No.
Okay. All right.
So it wasn't before. Okay. Is the game exclusive to a particular console?
Yes. Single player, exclusive to a console, didn't come out before the PS3, Xbox 360, whatever generation.
Can anyone ask? Or go ahead, Sergeant.
Yeah, anyone can ask.
Okay.
Anyone
All
can
right.
ask, yeah.
It's not part of its system. Let me see. I'm reading the things. I'm trying to exclusive to a particular console. Okay. Did it originally come out during the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 generation?
No. That's fine.
Okay. Good. So that means it's going to be PS4, Xbox One, or current. Outstanding.
Is it a one and done game?
Technically, yes.
Oh, I don't like that technically.
You would understand once you know what the game is, it would make more sense. But you would say this particular game is just a standalone game.
So that almost sounds like it's been remastered or remade then, the way you've worded that.
No, I don't go down that route. No,
Okay.
Don't go down that route. That's a freebie. Don't go down that route.
Okay then, I'll expand on that question. Is there a sequel planned that you're saying that?
No.
No, okay.
This particular... It is a bit of a help for you. This particular developer makes games, and they're usually just like one-off games, except for the recent ones they just did. They did it as a series, but generally it's just a one-off game. But they all pretty much have the same sort of...
Why do I think? Can I confer with my colleagues Press
course
it.
you
Yeah,
can.
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, why do I think he's talking about Final Fantasy, guys? There's not a question.
I know. I'm thinking the same thing. So let's, you know what? For the next question, is the developer Square Enix?
No.
Okay, well there you go. It's not Final Fantasy. So.
Yeah, I'd been cheeky if he was pulling that one, huh?
Yeah.
So could you recap for us, Sentinel?
Yeah, so far, it's not part of an existing franchise. It's single player, did not come out before PS3, Xbox 360 generation. It is exclusive to a particular console. It didn't come out during the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 generation. Is a one and done. There's no sequel planned, and it's not made by Square Enix.
Okay.
If you have a question in mind, feel free to ask.
Well, it definitely rules out Nintendo, right? Because they rely on their same IPs over and over and over again. I can't think of anything that they've produced. Well, I suppose we could ask if it's third party or first party. Would that help? I don't know.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You guys okay with that question?
Yeah, of course, yeah, fire away.
BMG, is it first party or a third party? Or second party?
It has to be a yes or no question.
It's going to be yes or no, so you're going to have to pick one of them.
BMG, it's me. Oh.
Well, I'll tell you what. Just because it's VJ and he's new to it, it is technically third party. It is third party, but it was exclusive.
What's all this technical stuff?
It's third party. It's a third party game, exclusive to the console.
Technically, you don't even know the half of it, VJ. Ask him about BioShock after.
So basically,
It's a third party game. It is a third
party game, but made second party. Is that what we're inferring from that, guys?
No, it's without. No, it's a third party game.
We've got him on the ropes. I can feel it.
It's you know, 'cause if I kind of put it this way, the developer and publisher are different. That's
okay.
Yeah.
Any bells, Donny?
Not so far, anyway.
We've got a kind of.
Well, let's figure out where the publisher is from. Is the publisher a North American publisher?
No.
Okay, so it'll be either Europe or Japan. Okay.
Yeah.
And he said it was third party, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a third party exclusive.
Okay, so the only one that's coming to my mind, if it's from Europe, is no. Did he say it was? He said it was exclusive, right? So
yeah, it's an exclusive title.
Okay.
Maybe narrow down the console.
No. I have a funny feeling it might be something from Quantic Dreams. It's not a question, BMG, but
no.
You think of other studios like that, Donny Sargent?
You could always ask if Quantic Dream is the developer.
No. I want to check with you guys. Any other studios that you can think that is like that, or Pixel Opus, or Dreams, the guys that made Dreams, who was that? Media Molecule, studios like that. If we can think about studios like, but would have to narrow it down to a European developer versus a Japanese developer.
Just remember, all he asked was the publisher North? Was it American? That's all.
North American.
Yeah, just asked if it was North American.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a difficult question to answer, right? Because we know that it's first party. So Microsoft is an American publisher, but
it's third party.
Sorry,
it's third party.
It's a third party developer, right? But it was a first party release. He said, right?
Third party.
Console exclusive.
Third party. You asked if it was a third party game. I don't think you asked. You didn't ask if the publisher was first party or not. Did you?
Sorry, it was a third party. It was a third party developer, but it was for exclusive release, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So we can't. Microsoft is an American publisher, right? But Sony isn't. Sony's a Japanese publisher, right?
Yeah, I think so.
It just depends on how BMG's mind's working, right? I don't want to get out on a technicality.
Well, we could ask whether it's PlayStation or Xbox if you want, so we can narrow it down.
Well, I was going to ask, BMG, is the third-party developer at the time, are they now first party?
No.
Okay. They've not been acquired, was what I was getting at. 'Cause that
Okay.
helps, especially with Sony. That helps.
Yeah, so they're still not a first-party studio. Okay.
If it's a console game, why can't we just ask, is it Nintendo, Sony, or Microsoft, right?
Yes or no questions.
You'd have to pick one of them.
Yeah. I mean,
But you
I'm
can have
kind
that.
of leaning towards PlayStation, I think.
I'm leaning with PlayStation, and the only one I can think of is the third party that's made exclusive games is what's they called, Quantic Dreams. But their games are now on PC as well now, aren't they? And they're on they're on Xbox. And on any of the Quantic games on Xbox, because this is not including PC, right? This is only console.
Yeah. Okay, so
Who else is there like Quantic Dreams that we can think of?
to be honest, I couldn't tell you. A little difficult. How about this? My question, is it a PlayStation exclusive?
Yep. Yeah. PlayStation console exclusive. Yes.
Oh, there you
Okay.
go.
So at least that cuts out, Nintendo or Microsoft, Xbox.
Ronnie, you're awfully quiet.
No, I'm furiously writing down here, but
Okay, are any of the Quantic Dream games on Xbox?
No, I don't believe so.
at the same time, he didn't rule that out anyway, because he just said we're just speaking about this game. It's a third-party developer, so that wouldn't matter. In fairness,
But third-party
Yeah.
developer, but it's exclusive to a console system.
yeah, this one game is. So even if Quantic Dreams had other games on Xbox, it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to think that what they released. They released. I'm trying to think of the games that they released. I forgot
Pixels in the
names.
chat saying Returnal will know, because I asked if they are
No, they're
now
not on-
first party, so that
Yeah.
can't be them, because Housemarque got purchased.
Okay, if there's no other
Thinverse-
developer, maybe we just ask him: is it this developer?
Okay, we could do that if you want.
But is there any? That's what I'm saying. Before we ask
Well,
him
there's
that
suggestions about Remedy. If Remedy's a developer, 'cause I think obviously people leaning towards Alan Wake.
Wait, wasn't Remedy North American though?
question, yeah, and Remedy released Alan
No.
Wake on both Xbox and PlayStation.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Is there any other studios like Quantic Dreams that isn't owned by Sony that have made exclusive content for Sony, and most of their games are one and done? They don't make sequels.
Okay, so all right, well let's find out if it's Quantic Dream. Is the studio Quantic Dream that made this
No.
game? Okay, all right.
Because bear in mind, Remedy are Finnish.
Shit.
Boxes.
What about Media Molecule? Because they made like Little Big Planet games, right?
Aren't they not
They're
owned by Sony?
exclusive. They're exclusive.
Yeah, they're owned by.
They're first party studio.
Right. Damn it. Okay. I can't believe that we're like so stumped right now. I can't think of it. It's probably some obscure title that sold like 500 copies or
Well,
something.
I'll tell you this. It was published by Sony. but
Well, yeah, of
it's
course it
a
was.
third-party
Yeah,
developer.
That's
Sergeant,
understood. Yeah.
Sergeant, what was the question you asked regarding the territory, whether it was North America, Europe, or have we eliminated Europe as in terms of the developer? Because then if it's Japanese, then that'll help us. So if it's European, that will help
I
us.
think I said, was the publisher North American? And he said no. I
Yeah,
believe
because
that's what the
obviously
question was.
Because obviously, if it was a Sony exclusive,
Yeah.
then what we got to know is was it published by Sony or was it published
Right.
by a developer?
Yeah, I think I asked that before we knew whether
It
it
was
was
published
Nintendo
by
or not.
Sony. Yeah, it's published
Okay,
by
so published
Sony.
by Sony. So that's a Japanese public. Now we just need to know.
So now you're thinking about things like Death Stranding, for example. That was PS4. It's exclusive. It's third
Yeah.
party.
but it's not one and done, is it? It has a
pub-
sequel.
Well, yeah, I know, but how
It
do I
doesn't
word
have
that
one yet,
question?
though.
And it's
No, but it's been announced, right? So
yeah.
I would have said if there was a second game in development, and you asked if there was a sequel, I would have said not yet.
Okay, so was it a PS4 exclusive? How about that?
Yes.
Okay.
okay,
And when I say PS4 exclusive, I mean that it's still exclusive to the PS4. It hasn't been
It is-
ported to PC.
No, it's I don't think it has. Let me
Oh,
double
come
check.
on, how can you not
Let me
know?
double check. Let me double check. Let me double check.
Wow.
But I'm pretty sure.
Is this what they say? Blind
No,
leading the
no,
blind?
no.
I know, right?
According to the info I've got, it is only on PlayStation 4.
So now we need to weed through all of the PS4 exclusives that were third party that haven't ended up on PC yet.
And here's a little bit of help for you. It is backwards compatible, and it is in the, I believe it is in the PlayStation Plus Extra.
Well, that's
subscription
exactly what I was thinking about. Thinking about that PlayStation Plus collection, but you said it's backwards compatible, so that rules out Bloodborne, because that was where my mind was going next.
Yeah.
That rules that right out.
Yeah, but you can play Bloodborne on your PS5.
So
Okay.
Yeah, you can pretty much play, apart from a very, very, very small selection of PlayStation 4 games, you can play your PS4 library and PS4 games on your
that's where you're
PlayStation
going.
5.
So you've got games like Bloodborne. You've got, what was it? Is it The Last Guardian was on that fucking list? What else on that list?
It's a third-party developer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you. So okay,
okay,
this is a PS4. Go ahead, Donnie.
I'm gonna say, is it developed by FromSoft?
No, that's 15. Oh.
Okay, so let's
Four more guesses.
Okay, can we recall anything from Capcom, Level 5, anything from Vanillaware? Because I remember they had a game which came out on the PS4 eventually, which was called Dragon's Crown.
So okay, all right, hold on. This is a PS4 exclusive.
You could always ask about combat or genre, something along those lines. That might help.
Yeah,
But there's so many genres,
Shadow,
right?
Shadow
And
of
there's so
Colossus,
many-
Muppet. Yeah, I was thinking that as well. Shadow of Colossus. Just trying to think what else on that fucking PS Plus list.
Was it what? You know what? There was a game that was one and done. The studio was no longer around. I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking.
Go ahead. What
Well,
was your th-
because and this isn't a guest BMG. This is just consulting with my team. Drive Club is one and it was a one and done, and the studio that made it is gone now. So I don't know.
Fimber asks a question.
Let me see. Does this game have a skeleton on it? Okay, fuck it. Does this game have a skeleton on it?
It has a skull, so yeah.
Has a skull on it. Now that's on the cover, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
I won't count that as another question.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously.
He's being generous. He's being generous.
Right, I know, right?
What was that?
Okay.
What was that game that was remade, and with a skeleton?
Oh, the skeleton game. Okay, chat, we could use your help.
Hang on, just remember though, we did say it isn't a remaster or remake.
Oh, right.
Before you go down that road.
Well, it's definitely not Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, definitely not.
Oh God,
Donnie,
The
you've got a skeleton as a thumbnail,
No.
right? You're called Pure Dead Gaming, and you don't know the name of this game. What's going on?
what was that horror game called? The oh God, the one. It's like fucking Until Dawn.
No, that's not an exclusive, though.
Was it not?
Is it? I don't know. Wasn't that made by Quantic Dream, though?
Oh fuck.
Yeah, I think it was.
Ah shit.
Luke still should know what this game is. He should have known this name of this game about 10 questions ago, and he hasn't put it in the chat. I'm disappointed.
Like Luke Steele doesn't even touch his keyboard when he games. He just like stands on the tower with like the lightning running through his body like Raiden, and he holds his hands out, and that's how he games. He should know all this.
Yeah, you should.
So you've got
like a
4
walking
questions and a guess.
encyclopedia.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
It is exclusive, Masuko. Yeah, it's exclusive to PS4 gen, and it's published by Sony, and the developer's not American. Is that no? The publisher's not American.
yeah. Yeah, the publisher's not from North
And it
America.
has a skull on the box. Is that right? So far?
Yeah. Oh
Okay.
my god, I'm trying to think. I don't Jesus, I don't know. I'm completely
This is like playing charades, isn't it? My goodness.
yeah, pretty much. You know, I have no idea, to be honest. I have no idea what it is. Damn.
Maybe ask about the combat.
probably one of those PS4 games I've never played in my life. Okay, you know what? How about this? Is it a... You know what? And then about the combat, I don't even know what to ask specifically. Is it hack and slash? There you go. Is it a hack and slash game?
No, but I'll help you a slight bit more, just because I want to try and keep the streak going, but not give you too much help. There's no combat.
Oh, hold on a second. Is it
That's a big clue for it. There's no combat.
Is it?
It's got. I think I have to be right. And the guys in the chat are saying Until Dawn, because it's got to be Until Dawn then. It's got to be.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I ask a question? But you can't count it as one of our questions, BMG.
Wow, I wish it worked that way.
Our first time on the show, just one question. But I won't.
If you were asking for a clarification,
no. I'm not asking for a clarification. I just want to ask a question, but it can't be counted as a question.
No, that's breaking the rules.
No. But it's got nothing to do with the game.
Okay.
Can we have another 10 questions?
Right. Okay.
BMG was the game developed by Supermassive?
Yes.
Okay. There we go.
Wow. Oh shit. They developed. Okay, Supermassive developed it. I can't believe.
It's the game Until Dawn.
It is. The game is Until Dawn. Released in 2015. It's a horror interactive story. Exclusive to PlayStation 4. Developed by Supermassive Games. Published by Sony. But
I would never have got that, so that's good.
You were close. When you started talking Aquatic Dreams, you were hovering around the right type of game it is. And then I thought when I saw Fimber put that in chat, I thought, well, I'll mention that because Fimber was on the right track, and then obviously chat. Masuku and Luke still.
I've just never played any of their games. So
they did. Until Dawn was a one-off game. They have got 2 VR games out, and they've got the
Quarry as well, isn't it?
The Dark Pictures anthology and the Quarry, but they are all individual.
Yeah,
games.
no. I think if I knew about them, I probably would have got it. But I was in the realm of Quantic Dream, so yeah.
You were close. You were hovering around the right. You're in the right type of game. So, I thought Donnie said it, and then then you started moving away from it. And I was like, oh, do I hint? So I thought I better say no combat because that might help narrow it down. But yes. Where's
the lever, Sentinel, that we pull on, and then BMG just gets covered in like green gunk?
We still have to get that installed. Yeah, because I know that was a little bit of a definitely. That was difficult.
On your page, right? So we can. What was that TV show? Noel's House Party or something?
Yeah, Noel's House Party. Where they went in the little.
Get one of those machines in and then pull the lever on BMG Live.
Blobby. But yeah, well done, chat. Say the Masuku, Luke Steele, Fimber for hinting at it. Yeah, you did.
Yeah. I think they should take all the plaudits. The chat,
right?
Indeed.
Thank you for helping, chat. We greatly appreciate it.
Because we weren't getting there. We weren't getting.
Yeah,
obviously,
it was.
We
rough.
weren't allowed to use the internet, but nothing was ever said about the chat not using the internet.
That is true. That is true.
Yep. Nice. Very nice. Thanks everyone who tuned in to watch our podcast. Thank you so much to everyone in the chat. Luke Steele, Pixel Slapper, Thimba, Masuko, Stubbs Gaming was here earlier. I know Sappho was here.
He's there, but he's just fallen asleep.
Yeah, he's lurking. He's
fell asleep.
Muppet was here. UK Dazarus was here as well. If I did forget, someone, again, I apologize, but thank you so much for checking it out. Donnie Z, do you want to let everyone know where they can find you on social media, on YouTube?
Yeah, you can get me on Twitter at Donnie's Tweets. I'm part of Pure Dead Gaming, as you can see. So they guys do a podcast every week, and I've got a PlayStation, Pure Dead PlayStation, which comes out every 2 weeks. You can get me on there if you enjoy listening to me talk shite.
Nice. VJ, do you want to tell our listeners, viewers, where they can find you at social media and on YouTube?
Not really.
Wow.
I just really appreciate you inviting me on today. I don't get invited on to many shows, and I just want to say I really appreciate you taking a really professional approach and inviting me on and making me feel welcome. Nice to meet Donnie.
You too,
as
mate.
well. And he'll probably just write a thesis now on how much he hates me when he's offline. And
Right.
and BMG's already got a dartboard up there with my pitch that he throws blunt missiles at, don't you, BMG?
A picture of a cup of tea.
Right. There you go.
I can never hurt the Queen's drink or the King's
There you
drink
go.
now, should I say?
Right.
Yeah, I'd rather have the Queen's drinks now. But so thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it, and I hope I didn't talk too much as usual.
No, of course not. Thank you so much for coming on our show. We appreciate it. BMG, do you want to tell them where they can find you? And also, did you want to talk about a Destiny podcast if you have it coming up?
Again, thank you, VJ. Thank you, Donnie, for coming on. It's been great to have you on. Great conversation. I'm sorry I've been a bit absent, as you know, I've just been sorting some personal things out. But no, it's been great to have you on. Great conversation as always. And, you know, VJ always gives us an insight to and different perspectives of the different topics we have. And it's always good fun. I always enjoy. I could listen to you, VJ, on an audiobook. You should do an audiobook. I could just listen to you all day.
Oh my god! You need help.
There's an idea.
When we do Only Fools and Horses, right? When we go through every single episode, because that has to be a goal for us, right? At some point,
It has to be. It has to be.
Then no problem. I will talk because I know those TV shows. Because the other day when you said you was on the show with Stubbs and you said, "Oh, that episode when they Grandad and Rodney they go on a trip," I knew immediately that they were going to Cornwall, right? Because I remember that episode. I saw them in the van and the policeman stops them and they says, "No, we're not going fishing," and it was Friday the 14th.
That's it. That was the episode. Yeah. Oh,
I think Sentinel would love that show. I don't know if Donnie watches it or not, but yeah, we have to do that. We have to do that at some point.
Yeah, nice. we need to do an Only Fools and Horses show. I don't know how much we could get away with watching an episode and breaking it down, or if we just have to.
You
talk
could just
about
ask the BBC and say, "Look, you know what? We want to show you shows and we want to review it, and would you let us?" It's so old now.
I will reach out. I will actually reach out and I will email them and I'll see what response I get and I'll let you know, VJ. Yeah. But yeah, you can find me at BaldManGamer on Twitter when it works, because obviously Twitter at the moment's limiting to you about looking at 5 tweets before it says you've exceeded your limit. Now. Jesus Christ! What, Elon? What are you doing? Right. Concentrate on more on building your penis missiles, rockets, whatever you're making, instead of messing with Twitter.
Right.
You can also obviously find me over here on the XBN network, PSN Party Podcast at 8:30 p.m. BST on Tuesdays, and you can find me on XBL Party Podcast 8 p.m. on BST on Thursdays. There is no Destiny podcast planned for the moment because there's not really much news-wise, but we'll be looking at doing some. I think Sunday, me and Ash were talking, see if we can get a few people and do a bit of a gaming community night, find a game we can all play together. We'll pick some off Game Pass, so everyone can have access to it, but just look out on the socials for more information coming soon.
Could I just say one thing? Has Masuka ever been on this show?
I'm not sure.
No, he hasn't.
I just want to give a shout out. He's a top man, and he's one of the only podcasters or guys that I've seen that comes onto a podcast that says something out of the blue that just triggers a whole conversation, but a really interesting one. He's just got that. He doesn't know it, but he's just got that ability to spark off really interesting conversations. So I thought I'd just put that out there. Now I'll just let it to rest.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
He's awesome. I've seen him. He's been on Gaming Conversation. He's
been on Midweek Gaming.
Yeah, and he's an amazing artist. If you follow him on Twitter, look at some of the work that he posts on there. He's an amazing dude. But yeah, we definitely need to get him on one of the shows. I think he's more Xbox, is he, than PlayStation?
No. That's what I'm saying. You'd be surprised. People know so little about him. He's just got such a broad range of experience and knowledge. I chat with him now and then for my sins, and yeah, he's an awesome guy. He just brings a presence and an energy to a podcast that I've rarely found from anyone else really. So that's the best. That's the highest praise I can give him. And I'll expect $5 via PayPal. Thanks, Masuko.
Right. I'll probably contact Masuko here in the next few days about an appearance on probably the PSN Party podcast, because I know I have a little space coming up in a few weeks. So I'll definitely reach out and contact him about that.
We've got a big. I don't think we're announcing it yet until everything's confirmed. But we've got a big guest coming up on XBL this month, so definitely keep your eyes peeled for that.
Well, Stubbs is 6'4". Do you mean him?
Oh, he's a tall guy, but he's also an awesome guy in the Xbox community. But yeah, definitely keep your eyes peeled for that, because I think a lot of people will look forward to seeing this particular person on our show.
Yeah, cool. Definitely. As for myself, SSG Sentinel, obviously Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube, it's all the same. You can check me out. I have a gaming channel. I'm also on the PSN Party Podcast on Tuesdays, 2:30 p.m. Central, 8:30 p.m. British time, and on the XBL Party Podcast. That's 2 p.m. on Thursdays, Central Time, or 8 p.m. for those of you in Great Britain. So you can catch me there.
Who cares about Britain?
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Not the government, that's for sure.
Right, yeah. Yeah. So I mean, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. We greatly appreciate it.
Just before we go, I also just want to say again, like Sentinel, he joined XBN Network not long after I did, but behind the scenes, he does an amazing job, helps schedule the shows because I'm quite busy with work. He's taken over hosting because he does an amazing job at it. And he also is the guy that finds all these amazing guests, gets all these people on. He has this whole spreadsheet on his living room wall that takes up one side where he's got everything planned. He does it. I just want to say, Sentinel, you do an amazing job, and no, thank you for everything you do. And it's brilliant, awesome dude.
Thanks, I appreciate that. And again, thank you to Donnie and VJ for coming on our podcast. Great guests as always.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you to everyone in the chat. If you didn't like this podcast yet, obviously hit that like button, share it with someone that you know that might enjoy gaming podcasts, or someone that says, I'm not really sure. Share it with them anyway, because they're definitely going to enjoy it. The conversation today was top notch. So thank you for everyone watching. We greatly appreciate it, and we'll see you guys